Today we're driving the 2022 Nissan Rogue. This has an all-new 1.5-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder. It's super efficient, it's got a decent amount of power, 201 horsepower, 225 pound-feet of torque, and it can achieve 28 miles to the gallon in the city and 34 miles to the gallon on the highway in this platinum all-wheel drive trim. This is the top trim, comes in at around $39,000 with destination. As tested, we're at $42,000 with a few options, but you can get into a base model Rogue S for under $30,000. So pretty decent value there. Probably something in the mid-trim is going to be the best bang for your buck. Let's walk you around this Rogue. We'll show you what it looks like inside and out today. We'll take it for a drive and hopefully give you guys an idea of what this turbocharged 3-cylinder engine is like and what it's been like to live with this week. So overall, I think this Rogue is a pretty good looking crossover SUV. You know, this isn't anything too groundbreaking or revolutionary. It's just good, solid, comfortable, well-equipped A to B transportation. We have 19-inch wheels, lots of plastic cladding on the fenders, a little bit of chrome bits here and there on this platinum all-wheel drive trim. Lots of space on the inside of this Rogue. Got a pretty large trunk area here, a couple different configurations with these floors. You can kind of change the loading floor height depending on whether you want lower space or a completely flat place where you fold the seats down in the back. Got two buttons up here to lower the tailgate and lock the vehicle. Earlier this week, I was able to fit my mountain bike back here without having to take the front tire off. That's kind of my big space test for any crossover SUV, and it passed with flying colors. We have a nice looking panoramic sunroof, stadium seating in the back seats, only 2 rows with this Rogue. Nice view over the front driver's seats. We get rear climate control, 2 heated seats, no ventilated seats anywhere, even in the front in this Rogue Platinum all-wheel drive. A little bit of a miss there. Would like to see ventilated seats, though we do get Nissan's zero gravity seats, which are very, very comfortable. My back's always been a little bit funky, and these definitely are a big improvement over a lot of the competitors in terms of seating comfort. We get some rear window shades. Let's take a look at this turbocharged 3-cylinder. This is a variable compression turbo. Give you better fuel efficiency when you need it, or more power when you request it. Tiny little engine. Runs pretty smooth. Sounds pretty good too. I like the noise that 3-cylinder engines make, and of course the fuel economy here is very impressive. Top up front, we'll show you guys around the interior, and then we'll take this for a drive. So we get a fully digital gauge cluster here. Pretty similar to what we've seen in a lot of other recent Nissan models. You have a couple different meter views. Personally, I kind of prefer this traditional gauge layout. You can choose between a bunch of different information displays, your fuel economy, drive computer, trip display, navigation, your music, safety assistance systems. We'll just leave it on the VC Turbo display there. We get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Functionality seems to work pretty well. This touchscreen is nice and responsive. Doesn't seem to reflect much either on a bright sunny day, even though this is a gloss screen. Physical controls for climate, and we have a heated steering wheel, heated seats. Like I said earlier, no cooled seat option. There is a space down here to wirelessly charge your phone. That seems to work pretty well. Parking brake, drive mode selector down here. You have the option between sport, eco, auto, snow, and off-road modes. I've just been leaving it in auto all week. That seems to work pretty well. A little bit more storage down here. Pretty nicely sized glove box. Traditional cigarette lighter port and a couple of USB ports, Type A and Type C. Overall, I really appreciate Nissan's approach to their interiors these days. They're very functional, very easy to use, lots of physical controls and buttons, minimal settings and things hidden in the infotainment. This main infotainment screen's a little bit laggy, but once you get into CarPlay, it seems to magically speed up and become a lot more responsive, which is nice. Over to the left here, we have 2 memory seat settings, only an auto up-down window for the driver's side, not for all the other windows, unfortunately. We have a button here to enable or disable steering assist, which is super useful. Of course, that only enables with cruise control on. And we have a button for our head-up display. We can turn that on or off at a moment's notice. There's also a button to pop the tailgate and change your gauge cluster brightness. So again, lots of really nice physical controls throughout this Nissan Rogue. Okay, I think that pretty much covers the interior. Comfortable seats, lots of space, plenty of places to put things. This black is a little bit dull. They have some really nice tan leather interiors that we've seen too, and that seems to be a pretty nice place to be as well, especially in this platinum all-wheel drive trim. Reverse camera seems to be a bit of an improvement over some previous Nissan models. A little bit higher res display, pretty nice contrast and dynamic range. 360 cam looks pretty good to me. All right, so the big news here is this new 3-cylinder turbo. We're seeing a lot of new 3-cylinder turbos enter the market, and I don't think it's a bad thing. They're very efficient, they're powerful enough. I think they kind of make a fun noise. I also think this is one of Nissan's better CVTs in recent memory. It's very smooth. They've done a pretty good job tuning it. There's enough torque here with the powertrain that it doesn't seem like it's always revving up really high to get acceleration out of it for just normal daily driving. We have a bunch of different drive modes. Eco is pretty dulled and muted in terms of throttle response. Auto is kind of a nice balance. We also get paddle shifters, which seems like a little bit of a gimmick with a CVT, but if you're going down a steep mountain pass or you just want to kind of shift your gears yourself, you can, and it makes a pretty convincing argument for kind of a stepped gear setup. See what I mean about that 3-cylinder turbo? It sounds kind of neat. It's throaty. Let's go into sport mode. Alright, we'll go back into auto and start driving like a normal person. No one's going to be hustling their Rogue around corners like we usually do in our videos here on the channel. I will say this isn't the most fun crossover to drive. If you're looking for driving enjoyment or thrills, I would definitely take a look at what Mazda is offering these days. Honda's doing some new stuff too with their new CR-V that's coming out later this year. Got a new driver ahead of us with a sticker asking us to be patient. We're going to be patient for them, though they do need to acquaint themselves with that right pedal. All right, getting on the highway here. Let's enable adaptive cruise control. So we have steering assist on. That seems to work pretty well. It keeps us nicely centered between the lines. You can skip 5-mile-an-hour increments with this toggle switch here very easily. I will say one thing about adaptive cruise control is it's kind of instant in its response. So if you're changing your speed and you're jumping up 5 miles an hour, it's going to almost kind of floor it to get there. It's a little bit aggressive. It's not the smoothest adaptive cruise control system. Besides that, it seems to work pretty well. Maintains a pretty good following distance behind slower vehicles. It does blend speed differentials nicely. The steering assist seems to work pretty well too. Lasts a decent amount of time. It doesn't seem to prompt me too often while I have my hands on the wheel. As soon as you turn your turn signal on, it'll accelerate around slower vehicles in front of you. There's a little bong noise that it makes when the steering assist is enabled, which I think is kind of nice. It tells you that, okay, the car is kind of in control, and it's a clear indicator for what's really going on with the safety systems. You want to turn that off? It's a press of a button, super easy. I love that. Wind noise at highway speeds isn't too bad. I've got great visibility all around. Pretty nice driving position too. Lots of adjustability with this tilting and telescoping steering wheel. I haven't put a ton of miles on this Rogue this week, so I can't really give you real world fuel economy numbers. I would say check out the Daily Motor YouTube channel. They do a kind of a fuel economy test with all the vehicles that we get in, and that would be a very accurate real world fuel economy number for what this gets on the highway, 75 miles an hour or thereabouts, and that video should be going up around the time that my video goes live too. I've got to say, one area where I'm a little bit disappointed with this Rogue is the suspension tuning. Over bumpy roads, it's a little bit rough and there's a lot of noise intrusion in the cabin. Maybe it's the 19-inch wheels partially too, but it does seem to bounce around a little bit. Handling is okay for a crossover in this class. I do like this powertrain though. Nice and responsive CVT. Plenty of power for the highway. About to go and cruise Woodward. That's gorgeous. We do have independent front multi-link rear suspension, but again, for the price, at least on this Platinum all-wheel drive, I would like a little bit more sophistication and quality from the suspension. It rides well enough, it just feels a little bit cheap going over some of our potholed roads here in Michigan. The CVT is a nice improvement from Nissan. It's doing a lot of simulated shifts, but they're smooth, and it seems to work pretty well around town. Throttle inputs can be a little bit inconsistent every now and then. I never quite know how much acceleration I'm going to get off the line, but Eco mode does solve a little bit of that complaint. It dulls the throttle down quite a bit. I think auto mode is still kind of adapting and adjusting to my driving style. Alright, so how can we sum up this 2022 Nissan Rogue? Well, I do like this turbocharged 3-cylinder. I think this is a nice new engine. I love the ability to get just a little bit better fuel economy out of this powertrain. I would like to see some hybrid and plug-in hybrid variants in Nissan's lineup. I'm not really sure what they're waiting for with that tech. Maybe a mid-cycle refresh, who knows? But as it sits, this does get pretty decent fuel economy. Again, check out the Daily Motor YouTube channel for their fuel economy test on this Rogue when it comes out. But overall, I think this is a pretty good option for most buyers. Nothing class leading here. There are more fun to drive crossovers. There are crossovers that have better value overall. I think you get into some of these higher trims, it gets a little bit pricey, especially for this Platinum all-wheel drive. I personally would have some trouble stomaching the over $40,000 MSRP on this particular car, but again, press cars are usually fully loaded. I think if you get into a mid-trim SV or something along those lines, you'll be pretty happy. Overall, I think just kind of a general jack of all trades, master of none here. Solid A to B transportation, does pretty much everything you want it to, has all the features and amenities that you would expect out of a modern crossover in 2022, and seems to do a pretty good job driving down the road. There are a few areas where I'd like to see some improvement, But honestly, as just an everyday vehicle to daily drive and use on a regular basis, this is a very easy crossover to live with. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.